Hello, welcome back to the Bang Broski's podcast. Hello, Vinayak. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Mick?
I'm doing phenomenal. We are going to have a great discussion today. What we will be talking about is life first business, and if you could just introduce us to what 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 does that mean to you? What does life first business look mean to you?
Yeah, Mick, thank you. And I think this is a really interesting topic, particularly for me, because of me being a solopreneur and not having a technical business as such. Life first business for me means building a business around your life and not shrinking your life to the business. So yeah, that's what how I see the business. It should not burn you down. You should not be confined to a prison. Right? So that's how I think of it. So how about you? How do you view it?
For me, that's life fulfillment. I'm all about having fun. I don't know if you noticed that, but I love having fun. I enjoy life by having fun, and it is building the business around the fun, which means you think about your fulfillment first instead of, I wouldn't want to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I have to do this again. It's like, I've spent so much life being like that where I was like, oh, I don't want to do this, but then, I should, so I will go and do it. So building life is like, I feel excited. It's for me, that's weaving in business and life. It's as you said, you build your business around your life,
Mhm.
and it just makes it a lot more enjoyable. So what does that look like to you? What does your day to day look like? If you could share it with us.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I have similar viewpoints, and yes, I have a day job, full-time job. Start my day with breakfast and then go to office, right? And evening hit the gym, then come back, make yourself dinner, right? And then you have like 1 or 2 hours at max, right? Because you're already exhausted, physically and mentally. You don't have any energy left, right? So that is me being single, right? And if you are someone who's married or something else, you have a lot of commitments, then I guess you might be in a similar situation, right? You'll have like 1 or 2 hours at max. Yeah, so yeah, that's what life first business means to me.
Nice. And so how do you build it? Do you schedule anything in your calendar? Do you say, okay, I'm gonna come back from work. I have now a 2 hour blocked out session where I'm gonna do certain things, or how do you incorporate that into your busy life?
Yeah, I think for a long time, what I used to do is like come back from the office, do all my chores, and you are just left with 1 hour, right? And I'm just mentally tired, like I don't have any motivation at all, and your mind just wants to binge watch, Netflix for an hour or two and just go to sleep, right? You're
Yeah.
not there mentally, trying to build something meaningful. And even if some days like I sit down to write something because I'm primarily a writer and I write articles on Substack and Medium. And like when I sit down with 1 hour in hand and you're starting to think about what should I write and blah blah blah. So sometimes it just gets very difficult to get started, right? Because you're already tired, you don't get, I mean, nothing strikes you for the first 10 or 15 minutes. And you are just thinking about what to write and you're just scrolling around the Substack, not do something meaningful, right?
Yeah.
And like uh, so by the time you get into the writing, it's already 30 minutes past and you're just left with 30 minutes, right? Often, I mean, make timetable, right? I will write from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. and then go to sleep, but it often ends up being you're getting into the zone of writing at 10:30 and you're finishing up at 11:30. So everything delays after a certain point, right? You were
Yeah.
supposed to go to sleep at 11:30, but you are now sleeping at 12. And that's a spillover effect. Then if you sleep late, you wake up late and everything the next day gets, messed up, right? So that happened to me quite a number of times, and I started to, notice it and eventually take action on it. So what I do right now is basically whenever I end my work, I just make a small note of what I did today, what is the progress looks like, and what should I do next time when I sit down to write. So it's like instructing a LLM, with a context file, right? So same thing applies to us as well. So next time I'm sitting to write, if I'm just tired, I just look at that file and okay, I have to pick it off from here. And so, I mean, I don't have to spend time or my mental energy thinking about what to write. So that is my strategy. It's been working decently. I mean, of course, I cannot do anything about me being energetic at 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. in the night. I cannot do anything about it because after a whole day of work, you are bound to be physically or mentally tired, right? And so I can't do anything about it. But I what I can do is do some steps around it so that I don't waste my limited time. How about
Nice.
you? Like, I mean, how does a schedule look like?
Well, my schedule is actually quite busy, and it's something I've been working on for a while now, just because I do think I waste time sometimes, but then I try not to beat myself up for wasting time because I just waste more time. You know, how many times has it been that I was like, well, I've just spent 15 minutes scrolling, doom scrolling, I haven't done anything. And then I spend another 15. It's like, well, why did you do that? You know exactly what you needed to do. And then I get into this spiral. I then waste another 30. So I've been trying to work on that. But then what my days at the moment look like. So for those that don't know, I am working towards a chartered qualification for an accountant. So I obviously need to study, and I have a day-to-day job, 8 till 4. So, I wake up around 6:30, make myself breakfast, make myself lunch, then drive to work and, do the job and then come back. Then I have dinner. I eat dinner quite early, so I eat at around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I then give myself 15 to 20 minutes to spend time with my parents, just because the time is limited, and I want to make sure I this is where I incorporate live life business, where I can spend time with them, and simultaneously, if I need to do anything, I can work on my laptop while spending time with them. And then from 5:30 usually to 7 o'clock, I will do my business stuff. So that's social media, that's also preparing myself. Sometimes that's learning about new things. So like anything to do with psychology, the brain, and that fancy stuff. And then at 7, 7 strikes, and then I go into accounting, and I will spend an hour learning. So I take exams every 3 months. So I have a limited time to learn the subject and then do an exam. So I make sure that I have enough time to prepare myself for that exam, and that's my weekdays. And then on weekends, I try to do 2 to 4 hours a day. So Saturday, both Saturday and Sunday, I will do my best to incorporate 2 to 4 hours of learning for accounting, because it is some of the concepts are very, you know, high level stuff that I actually need to think about. There'll be certain terms and stuff that I've come across that's easy stuff, but then they'll start talking about some fancy finance stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I need to pay attention. But I usually leave that for the evening, just because I've learned that I learn better at night than I do in the morning. And then outside of those hours, they're mostly see how it goes. I don't really have a schedule, just because I realized I don't really focus, I don't follow a schedule. It just didn't work for me, because sometimes things would take more time, sometimes they would take less time, and it needed too much of my it would just require too much mental effort on, okay, well, now I'll just do something else, or like, the next block is in 30 minutes. And I would think about these things that didn't really take any mental effort. So then I was like, I'm just gonna scrap this. And what I try to do is, instead of having blocks, I'm like, I would like to spend some time with my parents, at least half an hour. I want to work at least 4 hours on the business, and as I said, 2 to 4 hours to um, learn accounting, study, and for the rest of the time that I have, I'll just have some fun. That's where life comes in. So have some fun, because it's not all about building business all the time. I think that's where sometimes we go wrong. Is like, let's put life aside. Let me just focus on the business. But then you burn out, and then you start thinking about how much you've wasted time not actually enjoying your time. And it goes into massive spirals. But essentially, that's what my that's a long-winded way of saying what my weekday looks like. Which,
Yeah, yeah. First of all, good luck with your exams. I know like it's quite tough exam, and second of all, I have like read your stuff on Substack, and I often see that you write like sometimes I just like to stare at the walls and do nothing. So like, is that some
exactly.
of yeah? So like, I mean, why and how does that help you? I would like to know that secret.
Oh yeah, no, wow. Funnily enough, let me show this. So now I have posters on my wall, which I didn't
Hmm.
before. So before I was staring at a blank wall, just like this one, which was helping me with clarity. I have a lot
Hmm.
of thoughts. I'm a deep thinker, and I just love to think. If I could, I would spend all day just thinking, just because I don't know, there's something phenomenal about thinking. But yeah, no, it gives me the space to just free my mind. We live in a world where there's constant distraction with all the information, and our brain doesn't really know what to do with it. The way I like to think about it is like a clog in a machine. So essentially, our brain is the machine with fancy stuff, and then you pour in a lot of information. Is like, you put oil, you put water, you put some wood, and all the machine that are trying to work, at some point the stuff is going down and it clogs the machine, and it's like, I can't do anything. Your brain starts to hurt. You have no energy because all the energy is going to the brain to get that machine to work. So what I stare at the wall is to help free up the space so my brain can actually process it. And I think in a way it is fighting against the doom scrolling, because we are so inclined into getting that quick dopamine that your brain's like, oh, get me that dopamine. So I'm
Right.
fighting my brain's like, no, we're going to look at a wall and we're not going to do anything. And essentially what that is fighting my base level of dopamine, so that essentially what happens is when you doom scroll so much and you get those quick hits of dopamine, your brain wants to more, because your baseline is so low that after each video it drops down, so it anticipates a good video, so it goes down, it goes up, then it goes down. And
Right.
what happens is when you do boring stuff, you're then more inclined to do the hard stuff, because it's like, well, I'd rather do the boring stuff because that's actually not as boring as looking at a wall. So that's essentially why I like looking at the wall. But now the reason I showed you my posters is it also gives me motivation.
Hmm.
So I physically look at my goals. I don't know if you saw, there was a GT3 RS, which is my dream car at the moment, and it's been for a long time. And it just gives me something to work towards. Just when I don't, when my energy is fully out, I don't want to be doing anything, and my brain's like, well, let's maybe doom scroll. Do
Hmm.
something very unproductive and something that will essentially hurt me, my brain. But it's funny how that works. But then I look at a car and I'm like, wow. Or we could do something I'm not really willing to do at the moment, but then I'm working towards something big that you will be very happy about in the future. So I give my brain a reason to give me a bit more energy instead of
Hmm.
holding it up for itself. And yeah, do you have any way of freeing up your mental space? Do you do anything like that? Like, I know people meditate, some people journal as well, some stare at a wall. Is there anything you do to free up your mental space?
I mean, I have tried meditating and it has not worked for me
Yeah,
because,
okay.
I can't just sit through like, 5 minutes or so. I
Yeah,
mean, random thoughts hit me up and, I get distracted a lot. So I'm working on it. I'm not perfect. So right now, what is working for me is, going on walks without my
nice.
phone. Yeah. So I just observe buildings, trees, or people around me. And
Hell yeah.
that just takes off the mind of the social media. And yeah, but it's not perfect, but I think that still the breath of fresh air kind of clears your mind and refreshes you. So that's what is helping me. But I think meditation is good, I have seen a lot of videos about it, but somehow like I could not, sit through those 5 or 10 minutes of, the silence. But yeah, I'm working towards it. But like I just wanted to ask, like when you stare at a wall, uh, I mean, don't you get some random thoughts? Like because I do, I meditate, and you tend to have some random ideas. Okay, you should try this next. You should try that next. The mind is constantly bombarded, like
Yeah.
with you should do this for your business, or you should write this article for your Substack or something. So do you have such thoughts coming to you?
Oh yeah, all the time. Well, not so much anymore, but it's actually quite funny because I'm very childish about that. So, two things. So the more mature thing is that I disassociate myself with the thoughts. So I become the observer of thoughts instead of the thought itself, because that's what happens is when we have that moment of free time and your brain starts to talk to you, because that's the way I see it. I don't see it as myself talking to myself. I see it as my brain talking to me and getting, sometimes I've come up with great ideas, then I write them down. If I think that the thought that just came in and I observe them like, oh my God, phenomenal idea, let me write it down. But then I write it down and I go back to staring at a wall. And then more childish way is my way of doing sometimes when I have a really bad thought, some the thought that goes back to the past or tries to bring up something that you don't like to think about or something traumatic, one of those bad thoughts. I'm just like la la la. I can't hear you. I don't care. So I bring out that childishness in me that I don't care. It helps that I disassociate, but then I consciously create a thought that is counteracting, attacking the thought. So I'll create noise in my own head that will fight that thought. Although I do think sometimes it's good to listen to it and just let it pass, because what happens is if you do that constantly, where you fight that thought, is you don't deal with it, and sometimes you need to deal with those thoughts. And what helps is disassociating. So instead of seeing yourself as that thought, because what I used to do would be like, why do I keep thinking about that? It's like I shouldn't. I'm a bad person because I think this way, or those kind of things. But then I just disassociate myself. It's like the brain has memory, so sometimes it'll just come up because we have a memory. Those thoughts will come up, and yeah, I've done it so many years now. As I said, I'm a deep thinker. I like to think. That's what I usually do. So it helps that I've been doing this for years now, that I got to a point where I don't really get too many of those. But it took, I don't want to make it sound like it's an easy thing, because it isn't. It requires a lot of, probably not years, but it requires a lot of conscious effort to get over those bad thoughts. And yeah, just realizing, I think it's the reframing that it's not you. You thought, what I think people should know about thoughts is that there's always a stimuli for those thoughts, whether that's
Right.
subconscious or conscious
Mhm.
stimuli. Something gets those. A thought is just a response. So
Right.
a thought isn't the first thing. There must be a stimuli which then leads to a thought. So it's I think it's important to know that the thought just comes in because something, a stimuli, has caused it. So sometimes basically what will happen is you will think about something which will be in context of that bad thing, and it will trigger that thought because you were in that area of the context, that you entered that field, and then that thought came in. But then you have to recognize that, one, it was the past, you can't change it. Two, that you are not your thoughts. And three, that you have control over what you do with that thought. I think that's what would help. Does that help? Does that make sense, by the way? Does that help you? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was an interesting perspective. Like you said, you created noise to cut the noise, right? At least that's what I want. I have to do in the beginning when I have like a lot of thoughts. I mean, eventually those thoughts will stop coming to me, but I think at the initial stage, like you need to, I mean, of course, you will have those thoughts when you're going into meditation or,
Yep.
just staring at a wall or anything. So I think that's a non-negotiable. So yeah, I think that was an interesting perspective. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure.
Any other non-negotiables that you have for like this is, I mean, I would not give up on this for my business.
Mine and no. So you mean like what would I do that like I wouldn't give anything. I have to do this. Like, it doesn't matter what the business wants of me. I will do this. Is that what you
Right,
mean?
right,
Yeah.
right.
So my non-negotiable is staring at a wall. And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's I'll like lay in bed and just my the overall concept is not to do anything. Like just give
Hmm.
yourself you and your brain time to think and process everything that's happened. Because I don't know if people, if you know, and people know that our subconscious, our brain takes in millions of information that we
Right, right.
don't exactly know. We don't consciously think about everything, right? We
Hmm.
we consciously see what we put focus to, what we pay attention to, but our subconscious thinks about everything else, and so it does millions of things. So for me, no negotiable is to do nothing and let the brain process because I see it as a machine. And for example, you wouldn't leave your computer running for hundreds of years. You would give it time to you would upgrade the software, you would restart it, you would update it, you shut it down, you would cool it down when it gets too hot. But we don't do that for ourselves. We want constant grinding and grinding. It's like I need to be doing something. So my
Hmm.
non-negotiable is relax. Give yourself time. Don't overheat yourself. Another thing is to have an outlet of releasing energy. So for me, that's
Hmm.
dancing. I will
Oh.
put some music on. I don't do that. I don't do salsa. I do free dance. So, I'll just move around to the beat of the music. But
Hmm.
that's one. And once, not once a week, but it's not a daily non-negotiable, but
Hmm.
at least 5 times a week to go on a walk. And just like you, I like to go on a walk and just observe, look at life, look at the trees, look at the people, and in a non-judgmental way, just literally, absorb the life that's around us. It helps appreciate life for what it is. You walk, there is beautiful trees, there are some great people out there, kids having fun in the playground. That's always nice to see in the digital era where you'd think they're all on their computers and stuff, but luckily no. I always It always makes me smile when I see young people in the playground. It's just very nice.
Hmm.
And is there anything else? I feel like there is, but those that are ones that come in my head immediately. But what about yourself? Are there any no negotiables for you?
Yeah, before I answer that, I have two questions.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
the first one is when can we see you dance? And second one is like when do you relax? I mean, is it like if you're, just lying on the bed, doing nothing. So is it like before going to sleep or is it like in the middle of the day or, after waking up? When is it?
Okay. So for the first one, we'll see me dancing as soon as we see your salsa dancing. Because I've been waiting first. I'm just saying, I've been commenting on your post. I
We
want to
might
see you
have to
salsa.
wait forever then.
So, right after you, I'll get something out. And for the second one, yeah, I think I know myself enough to know when to relax. So
Hmm.
I am very self-aware in terms of my nervous systems. So, for example, I'll feel my shoulders tense, and then I'm like, okay, well, I need to relax. Or sometimes it's before I do any deep work when I really need to think. I would like to release all the energy, all the past energy from the day, if it's throughout the day, and just let myself relax so that I'm ready for whatever's going to come and just give it space for everything that's about to come or what I'm about to do. So I don't really have a specific time. I think gradually over time, I just learned. I know this may not be exactly helpful, but you just learn. You feel overwhelmed. You're like, okay, well, I need to take a step back.
Right, right.
There's too much going on. I need to step back, have a minute to myself. And yeah, I think at first it's practice. So I think potentially it might be worth just finding a spot in time at some point to, for example, at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. and just do that at one point of every day, but then gradually you learn that actually you don't need it at 6 p.m. You'd feel most tensed up and most in the need of relaxation would be at 7 perhaps p.m. I think you gradually learn these things in my
Right,
opinion.
right,
Does,
right, right.
does that make sense? Would that
Yeah.
match with anything you do? Does
Yeah, I think you already mentioned uh, me doing salsa. So, like, I take salsa classes once a week.
Oh yeah.
So, that is kind of a non-negotiable for me. And of course, I go on walks on a regular basis. So, that helps me relax. And also, I go play golf sometimes. I mean, it's not regular, but I think, yeah, maybe weekly or bi-weekly. So, those are some kind of non-negotiables. And for those of you who don't know, I live in Japan, and so I'm learning Japanese language.
Oh yeah.
I have no choice. That is kind of non-negotiable as well. So yeah, those are the things that I cannot compromise on. And of course, day job is there. I mean, I cannot, compromise on my work as well. So whatever time is left around, so I just gotta, you know, build around it and, not compromise on any of these stuff. And as you said, like, I mean, I'm not as self-aware as you, to, remind myself to, take rest. But I think my body knows better because I get migraines, headaches sometimes,
Hmm.
and that's when I know, like, my body is telling me to
Right.
slow down and take a rest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I mean, when I get a migraine headache, I'm just lying on my bed doing nothing, just sleeping. Yeah, that's how my body takes it, as a stress response, and that's how I slow myself down.
Okay. And if I may ask, why salsa? Was there anything in particular that you desired or like you saw in salsa that you were like, I need to do this? Was this just an experiment? Was there anything in particular that caused you to do salsa?
I mean, I have never danced before this, and one of my colleagues took me, on a salsa party randomly,
Okay.
and I went there and I had a nice time. So I thought, you should give. I mean, I should give it a try, and
Yeah.
that's how I started to enjoy. And right now, it's been few months that I'm taking the classes. Not perfect yet, but yeah, let's see how it goes. Just, as a hobby,
Very nice.
not professionally or anything.
That's good because funny enough, I don't think I ever mentioned it. I was a dancer for 5 years in
Hmm.
I can't remember what it's called. It's when you dance with a partner. So it's not
Hmm.
a solo dance, it's a partner dance. So I did that for 5 years when I was a kid. And there is something about just dancing in general. I'm pretty sure I read a study that said that dancing releases the most amount of bad energy inside you, that when you dance, it expresses your body in so many ways that
Right, right.
it it's another form of relaxation, even though you're
Hmm.
kind of moving, so you're not really sitting or relaxing, but
Hmm.
you are essentially relaxing, if that makes sense. So yeah, I would highly recommend dancing to anyone, even if, some people say, I can't, I'm not on beat, or, I'm not that great. And to me, as someone who professionally danced for 5 years, I don't think it matters. It's all about just having fun and, as I said, releasing that negative energy and just. I think it energizes you positively. So
Hmm.
you release the bad things and then you then get positive energy from dancing. So I'd highly
Right.
recommend it. It is quite an amazing tool to do in my opinion. So anyone ever thinking of, I don't know what to do to relax, and you don't want to meditate, you don't want to do other things, try dancing.
Mm.
Just have some fun. There is no particular music. I myself dance to all kinds of music. I'll go from classical to pop to rap even, and techno, dubstep, literally anything that has music in it, you
Mhm.
can dance. So yeah, just have some fun, express your body in different ways, and yeah, just have some fun, I think.
Yeah, that's a great advice, I think. We all need some, form of ways to, release our negative energy, right? To keep yourself calm and to prepare yourself for the next big thing, whatever it is. So I think, yeah, I think it might vary for various people. Some might prefer playing sports or anything. But yeah, you just need to figure out, try stuff and figure out for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. It is. I think that's where we go wrong, and it touches on the hustle culture, the grinding, where don't do anything, just grind, grind, grind. Don't worry about anything else. And as much as I'm a believer in both camps, so I
Mhm.
think if hustle works for you, hustle. But if you get burnt out, you don't see any point in working 16 hours a day, then don't find a way to build your business around your life, which is what this is about. But I think that's where the hustle, why there is some negativity or negative opinions about hustle culture is that there is no way of relaxing. Our body's not really designed to work all the time. And, sometimes it will be at a cost of sleep, which I just remember that's another non-negotiable for me, which is sleep. I
Right.
learned very early on, I love sleep. And
Mm.
as much as I'm a workaholic, there comes a time where I'm like, I need around 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I'm going to bed. There's always tomorrow. If there's something I'm working on, I'll finish it to a point where I'm like, I know what I'm doing or what I
Mhm.
was doing, and then I write myself prompt like an AI to continue doing that when I wake up because sleep is crucial. And I'm pretty sure in the hustle culture groups they will tell you, you only need 4 hours of sleep, get some coffee, get energy drinks. And it's like, yeah, but for how long can you lie to your body? There's only so many days you can cope with that. And as much as in your head you can be like, I'm okay, your body knows better. Like you said, you get migraines, and I've even found that their symptoms are not easily visible to a point
Mhm.
where when they get to burnout, it's quite very late and they actually need doctors' help because they've just burnt themselves out to such a physical level. They then need another person to help them, which is a bit upsetting because that's why I think life first business is important that you put your life first. So when you see yourself burning out, you know that, okay, well, the business isn't going to die today. I can do that
Right.
tomorrow, that
Right.
sort of thing.
Exactly.
And, you know, I think it's about finding the balance and learning yourself. I go back to the idea of knowing yourself, like knowing your body, because that is important in my opinion. That when you know yourself, you know exactly how
Mm.
to plan, what to do, how you work, how much sleep you need, when to relax, how to relax. You learn these things as you learn yourself, but you have to live first. You can't just put business first, which I think there will be moments in which you put the business first because something needs doing, but that usually isn't 24/7. There will be
Right.
moments, but that moment won't be every day. But what do you think? Does that align with you? Do you relate? What do you think about the hustle culture?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with your viewpoint. And like, I mean, it's great that you mentioned that there are two groups, the hustle culture group and the life first business group.
Yeah.
And I often see the people of the hustle culture group having this narrative of, labeling the other group guys as, being lazy or,
Yeah.
something, you're not serious enough about your business. You will not get anywhere with that attitude or something. So those kinds of narratives gets pushed around a lot. And so, like, what do you think about that? Do you think it is lazy, or do you think it is important to prioritize your life first, then business second? Because, if you're, I mean, it's natural that if you're putting in less hours, then your timeline gets expanded and, you will not see immediate results. And that's because, a lot of people give up, way too soon, like within the first 6 months or so. And then they just tell, like, it's not working, my business is not working, or my idea is not working. So, like, how do you see this? Like, how do you set the expectations right when you are on the other, the life's first group?
Phenomenal question, by the way. Great, great question. And I think as much as I love simple answers, I think it's more of a complex one just because it's not zero and one. Because I've been in both camps and on both I've been on wrong side of the both camps as well. So I kind of been on both camps, and I've been on the right and the wrong side of them, just because sometimes you can have a great advice, but if you don't use it well, you won't benefit from it. So I don't think not grinding is lazy, but then
Mhm.
only if you're putting the work. So for example, I only get 2 to 3 hours, and I could extend it to 6, 8 if I want to compromise my sleep. But as I
Yeah,
said, non-negotiable, I will not be doing that. And I then do something, because I think what happens is when people put life first, they think, "Oh, I'm just going to work, 1 hour a week." And it's like, well, what results do you expect from 1 hour a week? I'm not saying it's wrong, but then
Mhm.
people go in thinking, well, I only have 1 hour a week, which is, if that's all you have and you're putting the work, great, that's not being lazy. If you're finding the time to do something and that's actually only an hour a week, which I'll be really surprised if that's all you have. But if your life is so busy you only get 1 hour and you're actually putting the work, then it's fine. But don't expect, the thing to go big within a month, because
Exactly.
there are so many people that grind, 10 to 20 hours a day for months and they see no results. I then question, how good are their inputs? Because that's another thing you have to think about is, the wrong side of the culture is that you work at the wrong thing. It's like, I don't know if you've heard it, there is this phrase that, to master anything, you have to spend 10,000 hours or something. I'm
Yeah,
paraphrasing here, but
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
they say. To become an expert, you need to spend 10,000 hours. And whilst that's somewhat true, it's also false, because if you're doing the wrong thing, it doesn't matter if you're going to spend 100,000 hours or 10 hours, you won't learn anything.
Hmm.
So I think the big part on this is to know exactly what you're doing and have an understanding of, is this input going to lead to the output I want? That is big thing that I ask myself a lot, is like when I grind hard for like 8 hours in a row in straight, I then ask myself, during the 8 hours, I'd be like, will this actually help with anything? Am I just wasting time in a way? Sometimes you will have to do things that don't have big ROI. That's the bad side of hustle culture, is like they think they have to be productive at all times. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes you have to get something done that won't be very productive, but
Hmm.
it is necessary to do. So I think that is very important. And yeah, setting the expectations. I think you mentioned that as well. So just knowing that it will take time, because from what I've seen, what I've observed is a lot of people will burn themselves out because they don't see the result as quick as they want to. And, I think it all stems from the fact that you see so many people on social media who appear to be successful, and emphasis on appear, because what you see on the internet isn't always the truth. I could go rent a Lambo, rent a massive house, appear rich, create probably about a year full of content within one day. You just pack a lot of clothes, and within one day I would probably spend about, I don't know, 2 to 3 thousand pounds. But then I have 1 year's worth of content. I appear to be rich, which then will bring a lot of people who feel poor and feel like, oh, I want to live this way. Let me, you know, I want to subscribe to this guy. I'll pay him money to show me how it's done. And I don't want to expose people, but that's what a lot of people did back in like 2018 to 2022. We've had a enormous amount of young people who did that and bought into that. And I'm not blaming them, because they probably fell for it. So they would have bought a course, they wouldn't get much value from it, but then they were smart enough to realize what the other person did, and they were like, "Let me do this as well." So I don't blame the players, because that's, we're all in a game, and you're either in it and somewhat play by the rules, even though sometimes it sucks. But you can't blame the player. You can only blame the game, to be honest. But yeah, the expectations is a big thing. You have to give yourself grace. I mean, I've been working on my business, my personal brand, for a year now, pretty much, and you know, the results aren't what I'd want them to be. But then when I look back and ask myself, have I been always putting the right input in? The answer is no. Sometimes I could have done better things. I could have done it in a different way. But have I not spent this time, I wouldn't know that. So, I have to go through the period of where I learn things and I'm like, okay, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is right. It's a process. So I think the most important thing is just enjoy the process. Whether that's life first business or hustle culture, enjoy the process. Like I'm a
Exactly.
workaholic
Hmm.
and I don't mind working 12 to 16 hours a day, but then I also love my life. So I know I'm capable of working that long and I enjoy it, but I will then do things that are life first, not business first. But that is essentially my long-winded answer to your question. But what do you think? Have you ever hustled? Have you ever been in that camp? And what's your opinion on hustle culture in general? Would you ever tell anyone to do it? Do you see it as a bad thing? Or do you think everyone should do life first business? Is this for everyone? And to give your question, throw your question back at you, are people lazy by subscribing to the business first, life first business? Yeah, you know,
Yeah, I
what do you
mean,
think?
I
What's your
have like I have similar viewpoint as well because it depends on you as a person. Like if you have all the time in the world, if you have the money to spend, I mean, it depends on your circumstances. So if you can go all in, then go all in, you know, as long as you are happy about it and you are enjoying the process, right? But don't do it just for the sake of anyone on the social media telling you to do it, right? No, you have to set the expectations, right? Because you know if you have the wrong expectations, then you are gonna burn yourself out very soon, and then you will eventually give up on it, and you will blame the system, right? So that's quite important. And I have tried side hustles like travel blogging and publishing, book publishing on KDP. I have been sold the dream of write one book and it will sell while you sleep. You're gonna earn royalties for a lifetime, right? For just few hours of work, and that's how they sell you the dream, right? But it's not gonna what work for them might not work for you, because we don't know, like they might have invested on ads, or they had a personal brand that made them earn a lot of money. But I don't have that personal brand yet. I don't have money to spend on ads. I don't have money to spend on ghostwriters and to churn out a professional book, right? So I mean, if my book is gonna sell, I don't know, right? So you need to, I mean, I'm not saying that don't follow any guru, don't buy any courses, but you can do that, but judge the situation for yourself, put yourself through that shoe, and your own blueprint. Don't just blindly follow it. But yeah, I think a lot of people like us, have this day job, and everyone just seems to wants to escape this 9 to 5 thing and have their own business. But it doesn't, I mean, if everything works out, then I think everyone will have their own business and nobody will be working as a 9 to 5. But yeah, so that's what I say. Like, just have the expectations right, and see if it works for yourself. See if this is something that you want to do for next 2 3 years, not 2 3 months. You have to put in years before you see meaningful results. Don't just try it out for 6 months. And so I think when you are having that long timeline, you need to have the right expectations. You cannot, often these course gurus advertise their courses like you can make $10,000 in 3 months, or you will make royalties, or you're gonna earn through ad revenue, whatever. So I think trends shift a lot, especially on the social media. What worked 6 months back, it's not gonna work anymore. So I think you need to be constantly in that game. So unless you enjoy that game, you cannot be profitable, or you know uh, or you won't be enjoying that process as much as you would like to. And so yeah, that's what, like, enjoy the process. I mean, judge it thoroughly. I mean, of course, I'm not saying overthink it, but again, don't just jump into the boat, just seeing that, I can do this too. So I think you need to have that, you need to sit with those thoughts, and you need to decide it for yourself. Just give it some time, and I mean, and at the end of the day, do what works for you.
Exactly. That's beautifully said. I think that's the whole. premise as this podcast, right, is for people to follow themselves and create their own blueprint. And that doesn't necessarily mean to reinvent the wheel. It just means find what works for you. Just, you know, pick part of the thing from someone and see if that works for you. If not, try something else. You know,
Mhm.
experiment, be your own scientist, create your own lab, and just see what works for you. That's the most important thing, because it's one thing blindly following someone's blueprint that will tell you you just need to work 20 hours a day for 2 years and you're going to have a six-figure business. And it's like, well, yes and no. I mean, surely you could, I'm not saying it's impossible, but uh, I'm sure there is different ways of doing that as well. That there is so many unique paths you can take,
Right.
and only you can walk them. That no guru can actually put themselves in your shoes exactly and tell you what to do. Only you know what you can do. You have your own limits that, sometimes for me, I don't mind pushing myself through the discomfort and the pain, but then someone might not like that and they will need a different strategy. They'll need more relaxation. They'll need, to find a different breathing method perhaps, or a different meditation to help them process everything that's going on and to help them move forward. And there is no better worse method in general, but there will be a better or worse method for you as a person. So you have to find what works for you, and that's how you build your own blueprint. And yeah, it's only as much as you can do. There's a lot of good advice on the internet. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people who made millions on the internet by giving great advice. But sometimes, as I said, what works for one person will not work for the other person. And that's
Exactly.
not because there is something wrong with you. It's just that's how it works. There is no advice that fits everyone's shoes. We all have different lives. We all have different ways of thinking. We have different ways of working, and I you just have to find out for yourself. I think. So there was one more question I had is, do you think life first becomes a risk in excuse not to push when it matters? So it ties back to the idea of, is life first a lazy strategy, and is that an excuse to, I need to feel fulfilled before I do anything? Do you I'll to give more context, I'll give you my opinion. So I think that it does become an excuse sometimes, because if you want to build a business, life is important, but then sometimes, even though you have non-negotiables, you will have to push through them and not do them, but you can't do it too many times in a row because that then becomes a habit. But essentially, it can become an excuse where it's like, well, I know I want to build a business, but then I should focus on my life first and then build a business. So I think there is a risk that you can become lazy and you can hinder your own growth and your business's growth. So it's very important that it doesn't become an excuse and that you actually know what you're doing. So I think, going back to non-negotiables, I think you then have to create a non-negotiables for what to do in a business. So for example, that for me is commenting and um what's it called? I forgot the word. Not socialize, but interact and collaborate with other creators. So for an hour a day, that for me, that's non-negotiable. That is what I'll be doing. And you know, there there has to be something if you want to create a business, there has to be something you do. You can't just be like, oh, I'll focus on my life and then business will come. It's like, well, if you don't actually put any thought and any effort into the business, it won't grow. It's like planting a seed and never watering it and never doing anything to it and just be like, oh, one day it will grow. It's like, yes, but then will the plant actually be any useful, kind of thing? But what do you think? Do you think it's a great strategy that doesn't come with any risks? What's your opinion? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think that's a solid point, and I agree with it because a lot of time it has happened with me too. Like, whenever I get public holiday or something where I don't have to go to work, right? And
Mm.
I decide for myself that I have like a full day of work. and I will just do this thing from morning and do this thing in the night or something. I make this whole schedule and then, I end up sleeping a lot and not accomplishing what my goals were intended to be. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that happens to me as well. And I think, yeah, like you said, we need to have that non-negotiables for our business to, if you have decided upon those tasks, you need to execute it. And then if you have the time, then you can, go relax yourself. So those boundaries are necessary. And again, it depends on person to person. Like some people, it might not, be possible at all because someone might be a parent, busy parent, looking after the kids, and they don't have the time, and they have to build in whatever window they have. And someone might have, some health issue or something, and they can't just physically do it, whenever they want. So I think we need to consider all those possibilities as well. But again, you need to be the judge for yourself and decide what's best for you. And yeah, just don't let, if you have just 1 hour, utilize those 1 hour. Just don't let it, just don't laze around it and kind of waste it and then regret later on that, oh, I should have done that, I should have done this. So yeah, that's what I feel. So I agree with you completely. Like, I mean, I'm guilty of it. Like, I do it sometimes, I make some all those big long ass plans and end up not doing it. But yeah, I think sometimes it's how it is. Like, you cannot do anything about it, right? So you can just improve yourself for the future and not regret over the past.
That is 100%, man. I completely agree. And as you said, sometimes there are circumstances in life where you just can't, and business has to go on the side for a minute. So I
Hmm.
think, yeah, judge for yourself, create your own blueprint, do what works for you. And where that leads us is probably, I don't know if you want to touch on anything this episode, but next episode we'll talk about the identity shift that you have to take to make that happen because there are certain shifts in identity and beliefs you have for yourself to make the business happen. But that's for next week. Do you want to add anything to this episode?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we have a lot of topics because this is quite interesting, and I mean, everybody's life is different, and we have like a lot of learning through everyone's life, and this is a never-ending topic, but quite, I mean, one of my favorite topics. And so, yeah, thanks for your insights, Mick, and uh, like, I mean, just for our viewers and for our audience as well, I would like to ask them, like, I mean, what do you think, like, we should cover next? And is there something in the life first business that they would want us to cover that we can touch upon in the future episodes? But yeah, I think the next episode is quite interesting as well, and I look forward to meeting you and all of our audience in the next episode too. So yeah, that's it. That's from me. Thank you so much for joining, and please subscribe to us on Substack and YouTube as well.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for that sign off. Yes, it was a great pleasure. I mean that this topic is quite amazing and it is broad. So yeah, if you guys in the audience have anything that we didn't exactly touch upon this upon the thing you're interested in, give us a shout and we'll make sure to include it in any future episodes. And thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully you found this useful. Thank you for your insights, Vinayak. I'm hoping to see your salsa dancing very soon. And yeah, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next episode.
Yeah, thanks, man.